if you're looking to, I guess, buy a new PC and like, so I guess like, can you buy a pre-made PC that's like with like custom parts, or PCs that you buy that are pre-made, just like you just look at the specs and then find one that aligns with what you want?
Yeah, absolutely. There's tons of options available for that. I always recommend to do it yourself if you can, if you have the knowledge, if you have the time. It's a big factor for a lot of people: time, knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and security. Because sometimes you're like, man, I don't want to fumble these parts, and then I have to go
Right.
turn these parts. You could always go to companies like Origin PC or any other company. I mean, there's tons available to you. Depends on what your budget is. Depends on what makes most sense to you. Shop around. Definitely read reviews. Shop around to see what works. Most of the system builders nowadays, at least, you can go on their sites and configure your PC yourself. They don't have these cookie cutter builds. Most of them. You go on the site. You
Mm-hmm.
say, "This is the CPU I need. This is a GPU I'm looking for. I'm looking for this much RAM." A lot of times they'll have like a chat, or you can call them and they'll help you spec out the rest if you're kind of confused. Or you can just find it'll autofill or give you like recommended specs for you, which is fantastic. So yeah, you can absolutely do that. If you kind of have an idea of what you want, but you don't want to build it yourself, try shopping around, go to somewhere else and see what you can do. There's a lot of benefits to that. Usually it's just security. First of all, you save time because you don't have to do it yourself. You also have just one place to go to for like a warranty or support. You don't have to go from company to company. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest plus in buying it from a system builder.
Yeah. And how hard is it to build a PC by yourself? So my PCs, I had a friend. I had a friend do it. Like I ordered all the parts individually, which saves you a lot of money, but it can be tricky to put it together yourself, especially if you've never done it. And
Yeah.
there's always the risk of you accidentally, frying your motherboard or something, and or if it doesn't boot properly. I mean, I've had many headaches setting up my PCs. So,
Yeah.
what's been your experience with either buying versus building?
Like for me, like I see building a PC as like Legos for big kids.
Yeah.
I mean, like for the most part, like it's at least I know it sounds kind of like, I guess, cocky saying it, but just like it, when you put a PC together, it kind of makes sense. Like the video card goes in that slot, and the CPU goes in the CPU socket, and the RAM goes in the RAM sockets, and that's really it. Like the power supply, it has like the right plugs, and it can look intimidating. Like putting thermal paste on a CPU could be the most terrifying thing you've ever done with technology, because you're worried about not putting enough on, or you might be putting too much on. And what if it leaks everywhere when I tighten down my liquid cooler or my air cooler on my CPU? So it can be very intimidating, but I think once you get over that fear and you realize that it's almost foolproof. I mean, a lot of, even now, like putting a lot of these CPUs in are very easy. Like when I put my Threadripper in, it literally had a slot, which didn't happen before. Like with AMD chips back in the day, like they had these like long pins that you had to put into their socket, and then you'd have to push it down. And you want to make sure you didn't bend the pins. Like bending the pins is the most terrifying thing in the world, because then then you don't post, and your motherboard throws all these errors, and it's really frustrating. So now I feel like I feel like companies are trying to make it easier and easier for people to build their PCs, which is it's nice to see. So for me, like I've always built my PCs. Like it's just something that I personally just enjoy. I wouldn't say it's
Mm-hmm.
therapeutic, but it's a very enjoyable experience. It's almost like fixing your car. You know, like if for a lot of people really enjoy working on their car. They like tearing it down and putting it back together again. So for me, it's just like, I guess you could say it's a hobby. It's just something that I've personally enjoyed. And I feel like when a lot of people when people take that jump and they realize how it's not really that intimidating. Like I've seen a lot of people in my chat even say like, "Hey, I put my first PC together," and they are like the happiest person in the world just saying that they put it together.
Right.
And so I would love to see more people like take that jump and that leap of faith, that it's almost foolproof. Now it's a lot easier to put these things together.
Yeah, I'd say it's way more intimidating than it is difficult to actually do.
Yeah.
You kind of get in your own head like, oh, this is hardware. Like this computer hardware is scary to do.
Well, because there's a huge price tag tagged on top of it. Like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
I have this $500 CPU and this $800 graphics card. Like, what happens if I break it?
Break it, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
luckily there's a wealth of knowledge now. You can find YouTube videos that'll take you step-by-step instructions. There's just guides that you can find online. It's really, once you do it, and once you get it to post for the first time ever, you have this sense of accomplishment, like, wow, I actually built this thing. Like, this is my creation, and now I get to use it to game or stream. It's really, really cool. I'm with you on that. Highly recommend build it yourself and see what a fun experience. It becomes a hobby after a while. Like, luckily through my job, I've built a lot more than I normally would. But even before I started working for Origin, I had built a ton of PCs because I'd do it for friends. I'd do it for fun. I'd find family members that needed one. I'd put it together for them. It was just a blast. It's really, really
Yeah.
enjoyable.
I think I'm going through 2 PC builds now. Like, again, my friend did the building, but I watched and helped. I feel like my next, if I get another PC in the future, I might just buy one because this last one I upgraded my CPU and I was troubleshooting for hours. Like, it wouldn't boot properly. There was like a lot of weird problems, and then we thought it was like the RAM. There was a bad RAM stick, and then it's like you have to figure out where you ordered each part, and if you need to like, request a new part, like send it back, and it was just
And
it was
and for a
such a
streamer,
headache.
that's terrible because the more time you're dedicating to your problems, you're not dedicating to your stream, and that's another issue. Is just like Alexa said, like it's time. Like, people just can't afford that time to be bothered by those issues. And that's
Yeah.
why, like, and that's why I feel like recommending buying from a company like Origin PC or CyberPower or whatever fits whatever suits your fancy and fits your budget. It could benefit you because it takes that extra stress out of the equation. So you might be spending
Yeah.
a little bit extra money. It's because you have to pay for labor, and they have to be able to make money off of this purchase as well. But it can be convenient. It can just be a lot easier for those people.
Yeah, for sure. And because I had a bad experience, and time is valuable to me. Like, I don't mind paying a little bit extra to know that I'm just getting it.
Sure.
Like, the headache's gone, right? And I just like need it to get here, and it's like, so it's gonna depend on how you are, and like it's not wrong to just like buy it built for you either. It can definitely be fun, and it's definitely like rewarding to be like, okay, I built this myself and I figured out how to do it. But then it's like, you could save yourself a headache too if you have some issues, which I've
100%.
had. So
Yeah, that's the best. By far the best part of just buying a pre-built is the security.
Yeah.
And the timing. A lot of people just don't have that time to spend anymore. It does take some time, especially if it's your first build. You're looking at probably more than a couple hours trying to put it on. And then shooting after, because chances are it's not going to start up the first time. But it is a fun experience. But if you're not in the mood or you don't want to be bothered by that, then go for a pre-built. It used to be, I think someone in chat mentioned, it's not such a sin anymore to go after a pre-built. There was a time where it was like, oh, pre-builts are just these cookie cutter BS builds you can't upgrade. But most system builders nowadays, they're using the same parts that you would buy off PC Part Picker. A lot of them let you upgrade them yourself, like Origin, for example. It doesn't even break your warranty if you open up your PC and upgrade the graphics card yourself. So stuff like that is just super beneficial. It's definitely worth shopping around.
Yeah, and you guys, Origin PC, you guys